Yes. Back like we never left. Sir Charles, Miss Max. We told you just tell a friend, but don't go too far. So we are still on your airwaves. We are streaming worldwide right about now. IMHO Talk Show. We gonna bring it to you like always. Got to keep edutaining. And this next guest was one of our first guests. So I guess, Miss Max, we could take credit for all his success. You know what I mean? Over the past, how long we been on this air, Miss Max? About 7 years now? Mm-hmm. About 7 years. So
I'm actually the first guest of this radio station.
hey, give it up. But see, that's what I'm saying.
I'm the opening guest of this station.
That's what I'm saying. You heard it here first. WBAI, 101 Jam Charlesville's number one.
You see how he twisted that around real quick, Charles?
He did. He did. Ain't trying to give us no credit.
Nah,
He's like, I was first.
Blame Wes.
Oh man, but brother, Dr. Wes Bellamy, man, good to see you, man. Thanks for joining us on this Sunday. How you doing?
I'm good, man. I appreciate y'all having me in. It's always good to be here with family.
Yes,
indeed. The honorable Max, the woman of the house who controls not only the station but the city.
That's right. Literally.
So you're trying to make people mad.
Literally.
There's a lot of good stuff going in the city, so I don't know about that. And always with you, my dear brother Charles,
yes,
man.
Indeed,
love forever. And shout out to Razor as well. I know he's listening in. So
yes, indeed.
What up, bro?
Appreciate you, man. And as we said, a lot of folks follow Dr. Wes Bellamy, the work that you do, but we're gonna get into it. We want to catch up because one of the things that we truly appreciate is how no matter where you go, no matter what you do, since you've been in Charlottesville, you have definitely laid stake and you consider this home.
No doubt.
You know
this
what I mean?
Home.
Yeah, for sure.
There's no place like home.
Yeah, so you definitely should be applauded for that, man. But
how your people back home feel when you say that?
Oh, they know. I mean, I'm
asking you.
Let me say that they're. So I was in South Carolina yesterday and made sure I came back so I could be here on time. Let the record state for everybody listening.
That's
I was on time today.
Record state.
I know the joke is Wes is always late, but they know when people ask me where I'm from, I say Charlottesville. I mean,
okay.
But it's a lot of folks back in Atlanta and back in South Carolina who often say, we wish you would come back here and do the same things. But I think God sends you to certain places for a reason. Right. And this is just, the seeds may have been planted other places, but this is kind of where the roots have grown and blossomed. And I just love being here and I appreciate everybody for having me.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed. Like that, man. So what's been up, dude? What's been up?
Just grinding, man.
Yeah, when it comes to Dr. Wes Bellamy, let's see what's on the top of the agenda right now. In all seriousness, because there's so many directions we could go with this interview.
Yeah.
But right now, 2023, the fall, we almost at yet another year. What are the list of priorities for the good doctor?
I think the number one thing for me is taking care of my mental and physical health.
Yes.
And taking care of my babies. So, that's at the top of the list, making sure that I'm both mentally and physically and spiritually where I need to be. Because if I'm not there, then I can't do any work. We'll say after that, it's kind of like what Stokely allows me to do. So,
baby girl.
How old is she now?
So Stokely just turned 4 last month, 4 going on 24. My little best friend. So she definitely is a daddy's girl, and it's kind of like, well, she and I can work out together, but we can compromise on the scheduling. But in all seriousness, the Housing Authority, man, I'm so excited. And I appreciate the city and everybody for having me and allowing me to now serve as the chair of the Housing Authority Board. So we have some really good stuff coming up that we've been working on and continuing to do while simultaneously serving as the chair of the Political Science Department at Virginia State University. So we have homecoming this week.
Okay.
So, really excited, really excited about the work that we're doing at Virginia State University, as well as the John Mercer Langston Institute. And been having some conversations with some of my friends from other places, gearing up in terms of Black Men Vote and ensuring that our brothers as well as our sisters are getting out the vote for not only the upcoming election here in Virginia in November, but the national election next year. And then I would say, kind of in the background of all of that, just trying to be present as possible here in the community. I want to give a shout out to 2 of my younger guys, Zoe and KK. Okay. They've been putting together this quote unquote local like knockout kind of thing, if you will.
Yep, saw that.
And I am so proud of our young people working together to be able to do something within our community that puts on an opportunity for our community to be able to, one, for folks who have issues with each other to be able to resolve their issues in a very safe way.
Yes, indeed.
And then, I saw 2 brothers last week who younger brothers who really have a lot of issues, who had a lot of issues with each other, put the gloves on, settle their differences in a very respectful way. And then before the fight, they were saying a lot of different stuff, and I'm telling them, yo, we're not gonna have that. But they walked to the side after their fight. They shook hands. They talked for 10-15 minutes, and these young people put this together. So to me, I'm just so proud of Zoe and KK and everyone else for the work in which they're doing. And that's kind of, those are the things at the top of my priority list, just being present in the community and trying to help out our folk and help our people as much as we can, and just try to balance and juggle.
Yes, indeed.
My bad. I said like 20 things.
No, you good. Now we're going to bust down the list. Let's get them, Max.
All right. So, look, we'll get back to people using alternative means to settle differences.
Yeah.
But while we on the subject of boxing, wasn't you supposed to be in a fight here recently?
Yeah, I mean, shout out to, the folks who were able to put that together. I think, I think for a few different reasons, it didn't work out.
Okay.
But, I'm always proud of our community to be able to do different things and work together. And we have 2 really great boxing gyms here in the city. Crow Rec, for many of you know, I started hype boxing back in 2012, if I'm not mistaken, down at Tonsler Park, and now it's elevated to Crow Boxing, which is over at Crow Rec. Shout out to my guy, Big Charles, and my man Jermaine. And then we also have Wartime Fitness, and shout out to George and everybody who puts that together. So, we have 2 really, really good boxing gyms for the kids here. Crow, if anybody wants to come, we're there Monday through Friday. It's free for the kids. There's no charge. We cover everything. And I'm just glad that we have outlets for our community and for our young folk.
That's important.
Yeah. And the boxing, and folks see you working out a lot, running in the city.
Yeah. Love to my man Jose too.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Shout out to Jose.
Yeah, and you were one of the starters of Prolific as well. That is getting worldwide recognition.
Shout out to my man Will Littles. Yeah, Ball Hawk. Yeah.
Doing great work. So I said that to lead back into that first priority that you mentioned, health, right? And like you've always been about the community and the end goals of no matter what we're doing, who's doing it, it causing a lasting impact, and that's whether it's the community work or that's being on council, right?
Yeah.
And so, like when you deal with the pressures of that, and then everybody knows, like the public things like that you went through, like with the old posts and all that stuff, when people were at that. It's like so you got these stresses and you got these pressures, and sometimes, brother, sometimes I would wonder and check.
You hit me all the time. Say, "Yeah, are you okay?"
Yeah. Like, but on the surface, you always seem to handle it well. So brother to brother, and even for the sisters and all of our people listening, how did you do it, and how are you still doing it, managing that mental health?
So one, going to therapy. I'm consistent every other week. I'm in therapy. I think that this is kind of just what God made me to do. And the earlier that I just learned to accept this is my role, this is my calling, and then kind of understood my purpose, the better off or easier things are for me. I don't really see things as pressure laden as I think from the outside looking in it may seem. I mean, like, I think it seems like a lot, but it's not. It's not really like I'm not like President Obama or anything. Like, I'm not like trying to resolve the conflict between Israel and Palestine.
Right,
it's community work. So I think another thing that really helped me. I come from a neighborhood. Although Charlottesville is home, I come from a place in which there are a lot of very serious things going on, like life and death. I've seen a lot of close friends lose their lives. A lot of close friends and people who I've looked up to have to become incarcerated. So one of the things that a cousin of mine and kind of like an older brother said to me a few years back, really when all the Twitter stuff was going on, he said to me, Wes B, they call me Wes B back home, like, we've been through all of this. I know you're not worrying about no politics.
There you go, perspective.
Yeah, so it's like, he's like, we done been, I'm not gonna talk about what we've been through, but we've been through a lot of different things. So in the grand scheme, like, this isn't, like, I've been through a lot more very serious situations. I mean, they're all serious. So in the grand scheme of things, God made me, I firmly believe God made me to help our community. And again, going to therapy, making sure that I'm running. Like when I go run and jog, it allows me to clear my mind. So try to be disciplined in that regard. And then also just try to operate and do things for the right reason. Shout out to Boo and Ari from the Townsend League. We in our group chat, we always talk about, and I firmly believe this, if we do things for the right reasons, then they're always going to work out. As long as we're not operating selfishly, or if we're not operating with a lack of morality, or if we're not operating with just ill intentions or doing things for the wrong reasons, if we're just doing things because we know that we're supposed to do them, I firmly believe they're always going to work out. And then also me recognizing, like, I don't have to be in the front of everything. I don't have to lead everything. So I think my role is kind of more so of a starter. So like I get things started, get them off the ground, and it's up for somebody else to lead.
I really do think it's in some ways humorous or odd to hear other people's perspective of how they interpret what you may be going through, any individual, and your display of maneuvering through all of that. Just because you don't look like what you might be going through, or you're not walking around with your head hanging down, or this or that. And in some ways, people might say that you're faking, or you putting on, or they might say there's a variety of excuses for all of that. But in talking about the different things that you've experienced and how people respond to that, I just think sometimes it's mind-blowing to hear how they think you ought to be responding in particular situations.
I mean, that's for them. I spend time with my brother / barber, Will. Shout out to Will every week. I mean, we have our talks and we just decompress with each other. Like, that to me is invaluable. I try and go jog, hopefully try to like 5 days a week. So that's a release. And then the rest of it is, I mean, I really take joy in seeing us do well. So when we do well, that really just makes me feel good, and it allows me to be able to keep going. When I see, the work that y'all are doing, it's so many like people doing such dope stuff here in Charlottesville, where a few years back, like that wasn't necessarily the case. So to me, like being here, and the energy that's here, and being able to go to the grocery store and see people and maybe buy some groceries, or people just say, hey, thank you, Wes, or it's often love, be around the youngins, as I like to call them, but they're young men because they're dangerous, and I like to show them respect. But being around them and they show a lot of appreciation and love. I mean, like what I got to complain about, So being, somebody being so engulfed, within the community and community work though, like honestly, like how much do you care about public perception though? When I say that, not from just a naysayer standpoint, but when it's people in your own community that you could be doing good work with, but for whatever reason they have a perception about you. Like how much of your time and energy, like, do you put into trying to correct that? Or is that even important, or you just say I keep it moving? Yeah, well, I think you have to be able to do both, because my ultimate goal, I think everyone knows this, is Black empowerment above all. So with Black empowerment, my goal and my dream would be for all of us to work together collectively, and in my personal opinion, we do. Like the overwhelming majority of us, specifically here, we work together. Now, does every single person like get along or agree with everything I say, or I agree with everything that everybody else says. No, like, because we're not a monolith, and we're not like it's human nature to disagree. So I don't allow for disagreements to weigh heavily on my mind or my heart. I hope that we can find ways for the people in which I can't, like we don't necessarily work with consistently. I hope, and I feel like we usually do find ways in order for us to be able to work together. There are things in which we can work together, and the things in which we can't, like, that's okay as well. But I'm just saying, for me, like the overwhelming majority, like 95% of my interactions with people are extremely positive. It's very much so, hey, thank you. Right. We appreciate you. Wes, can you help with this? And then, if I can, then we kind of work together and we do different things. If I can't, which often does, which happens as well, then, we can't. But the overwhelming majority of my interactions are positive. So no, I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about quote unquote naysayers or anything of that nature, because I think that's just human. And I think that it's okay for people to disagree. And like Wes also isn't always right. So there are things in which I'm wrong. There are times in which, I should have probably said or did something different. Like, I'm not above criticism, reproach. I'm not above like any of that. And that's okay. There could be times in which people just have different interpretations of things that have happened. And that's okay as well. But to me, as long as, like, what really matters the most outside of, like, my family and whatnot, like, if I can go in the Food Line, or I can go really like to GoCo, or like when the youngest call and I go over, like I'm saying, like, when I can go over there and people are usually like, yo, what's up, or thank you.
That's right.
That's what matters the most to me. Like, you got to be able to be appreciated and go on your own block, and it's love.
So I am real quick, Charles, interested to hear your advice on this next question. As you've done your work in,
I got rapid fire going
in social justice here locally, a lot of different experiences have come along with that. Some in which have been like threats against you, family, different things like that. And so recently, the Black community, I'm sure, is aware of other Black advocates in this community, specifically female advocates for social justice in this community, are experiencing similar things. And so, as you hear about that, what's important for those individuals to know or understand in those type of situations, and maybe even some advice as to how you dealt with that, came through it?
Yeah, I think it's important for like if we're talking specifics, like we're talking about Zai.
Yeah.
Okay, so like
Zai, we got your permission. Okay, thank you.
Well, I'll just say this. Like, I think for those who aren't aware, because I don't think everybody is fully aware in totality of what's going on. Zai has been Zayana Bryant, one of our dearest little sisters and activists in the area. She's come under attack on social media from really a white girl. We're just gonna be I'm just gonna be candid. There was a white girl who a few years back, they were leading a protest. Zion, some friends from university, if I'm not mistaken, and other community members were leading a protest, and the white girl came up and she basically said that y'all will make good speed bumps. And Zai led a campaign, if you will, and kind of let UVA know that y'all shouldn't be graduating racist. So literally the girl, she only had to she had to apologize, and there was kind of like a letter on her file, correct me if I'm wrong, and she was able to go on her life. Zai's been able to receive a lot of attention through her activism work and whatnot, and she had a campaign with Dove, and with Dove, they, Zai's been talking a great deal about fat phobia, the need for supporting our people and others as well. And when the campaign came out, these people online basically just tried to like trash her, on social media. Right. So when I found out about it, because again, I didn't know. When I found out about it, she and I had some conversations, and I wanted her to know, first and foremost, that we support you. I think a lot of people saw the post that I put up in terms of us supporting her. I can't go into like super specifics, but we had some friends and trusted confidants go and ensure that she was safe.
Mm-hmm.
They went by, made sure that, you know, she felt safe and kind of monitored in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in addition to that, you know, sending words of encouragement, and it's important that, you know, again, she feels supported. Mm-hmm. Specifics can always get tricky, but I think that's important that our people, you know most of all that they feel supported. And in addition to that, it's important for us to also recognize that there are a lot of us who are within our community who feel the need to be supported in a wide variety of different ways.
Yeah.
So the question, like for me, is trying to figure out how to balance the consistent request for support.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I don't always get it right, but I try to work with our community for us to ensure that we can help as many people as possible feel safe. Like, and some folks will see like online threats in one regard. Some folks will see different things going on in the community, whether that be, you know, shootings or whatnot. But I think one thing that's I said to me is, which is true, like we can walk and chew gum simultaneously. So we need to be able to wrap our arms around, you know, her in her times of need, and be able to support the community and find intervention strategies to help our people feel safe. So, you know, those are learning opportunities for me and our community as a whole. And I'm glad that, one, she's safe. And secondly, I'm hoping that as many people in our community as a whole can also feel safe, which is going back to the earlier points. I'm so glad to see our young folk taking steps to be able to create intervention strategies. And I'm just glad to play like a real small role in that. So long answer.
No, you good, brother. So Max, but you know, a message I heard this morning was talking about unity versus uniformity.
Right.
Like we can have unity without uniformity. We don't need uniformity. You know what I mean? Because what, like the common thread that I'm hearing in a lot of this is just that. It's like we're not a monolith. You know what I mean? Like we act different ways. We disagree on some stuff. Like, but what's our end goal? You know what I mean? And Razor has something for you too. And we'll go to break. When we come back though, you know, after Max and Razor's last thoughts, we'll dig more into like the politics and the election and the housing. You know, that you're now.
I'm here. Y'all got me. So I'm here.
So I just want to say as we wrap up that question that you just responded to, for Zai, you know, that discussion was held with the utmost respect, and I asked because I cared. So
So let me. So
I want her to know too, like, you know, we all care. You know what I'm saying? Like, yo, I want to be very clear. Zai, Tanisha, Nakaya, the sisters, the brothers, like our community as a whole. There's nothing that could ever happen that would make us not care.
Absolutely.
And we don't have to agree on everything 100% of the time for us to still value and love you. And that doesn't also mean that we also aren't still growing and evolving and learning from each other. Because as Charles alluded to, the end goal is what's most important. And the end goal for me is Black empowerment. Now, how that looks will be different because we're going to take different paths. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's Black empowerment above all, and it's all love.
And you know, and when it comes to the perceptions, one of the things that a lot of people can't deal with is there's a level of strength, like there's a level of dog, so to speak, in people who really get ish done. You know what I mean? And like so some people can't handle that.
Different.
You build different. So like when you're a natural born leader and you have that fire in you, like not everybody can handle that. You know what I mean?
Well, sometimes you can't handle it.
That's right. Sometimes the individual can't handle it.
You know what I'm
saying?
That
is facts.
I guess we maybe can go into that after the break. But yeah, it's real.
So I did want to say that my sister Zayana is listening for sure. You know, so definitely appreciate her. I did share online, but since Wes can't see it, she said it's a both, and our activists shouldn't feel like they have to be a martyr or sacrifice their life for others when they always put everything on the line for others around them. Don't dismiss the white supremacist violence that Black activists face just because there is gun violence happening. We should be able to work on both issues.
Like we said,
thank you, Zai.
We can walk and chew gum simultaneously.
And so, Razor, did you still have something for us before we go to break? And then we're gonna come back talk about housing in this upcoming election. What's up, Razor?
Absolutely. What's up, man?
What's going on? I can't even hear you. You real low. Is that me? That may be me. Go ahead. Keep going, Razor. Yeah, keep talking.
All right. Hey,
Gotcha.
Wes, first off, I want to say congratulations. I'm proud of your growth.
Love, my brother.
And secondly, I want to ask you something. How do you invest in your children? Because it can't be easy for them to be the children of Dr. Wes Bellamy. I
It's
know
a
how
great.
difficult it is for my children, and I'm just a local public figure. So what is it that you put in your children to let them know that it's going to be okay?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, one, a reminder at all times that I'm your father first. Before anything else, I'm your father first. And simultaneously, we have an obligation to empower our people. So I think my baby girl probably gets it the most, more than the others, because it's just been instilled in her since day one that we have an obligation to help our people. And that means we. That doesn't mean just dad. That means we have to collectively be able to be engaged with our people. So that means that they then have to understand that because we have an obligation to help our people, that there will be things in which may not be comfortable for you or even comfortable for dad.
Sacrifices.
There's going to be sacrifices that we collectively have to make because we value and love our people. And then ultimately, this is dad's purpose. Like, this is dad's calling. So I want you to understand that my calling and my purpose is mine, and you're going to have to develop and find yours. But because this is mine, you all are going to go along on this journey with me. And there will be times in which you may not be comfortable, but I try to make it to have as many, the times in which that we have to ourselves are more than the times in which you have to have away from me. So for example, my oldest daughter, Michaela, down in Charlotte, to me it's kind of mandatory. I'm there every 10 days. And when I'm there, I'm at the cheerleading games and we go to dinner together. That's mandatory. Every morning we have our prayer devotion together. That's mandatory. That's at 6 a.m. We do it together. Every night we have our check-in. So that's being present in that regard. Stokely's just with me all the time anyway. So Stokely, you see her walking around saying power to the people, in her own right. So, she gets it. And Layla in London, we're also navigating new waters and figuring out, what our space looks like and how, in terms of what our life looks like right now, how we're working together. But I've been really, really happy with where we've been as of late. And I think that also with parenting as Razor, I think you all will attest to, there's no playbook, there's no guide, and there's no one way. So as I evolve as a person, as a parent, as a man, as a human, I'm hoping that I'm making the best decisions, but I recognize also that there are times in which I don't hit the mark. Like as in life.
And just like everyone else.
So there has to be a level of grace that I extend to myself, but also a level of accountability that I have to provide myself as well and say, hey, you got to get this done. And these are the priorities. So it's just about balancing and making sure the schedule is as tight as it can be, and we just go.
Dope. Appreciate that, man. Like, that's deep on so many levels. That's that's not just the activist schedule, but that's for the parent, who may have that job that pulls them away all the time or whatever the case is. So that's a good lesson right there.
I mean, and extending grace to ourselves, because we're human. Yes. Like, everybody is a human, including your children. They too are human. So, the more in which we can remind ourselves to breathe, the more in which we can remind ourselves that we can handle this, the more in which we can communicate effectively to figure out solutions that work for us in a particular season, because those solutions will have to change and they will have to evolve over time, because people are going to evolve, the better off we can be. And you don't have to be perfect. Like, we don't need perfect parents. We don't need perfect politicians. We don't need perfect people. Because none of us are perfect. That's right. So let's just navigate these waters the best in which we can.
Loving it.
That's
loving it. Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break, Miss Max, and get back to this housing.
All right. Be right back.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis. Only on 101.3 Jams.
Yeah. IMHO Talk Show.
How you just gonna cut that off? You know,
Don't worry,
jamming.
we'll get back to it, Miss Max. You know, I mean, you got plenty of time to shake your tail feather. You still got over an hour to shake your tail feather.
Good Lord, I ain't heard that in a minute.
Yes, indeed. But our family, we are still here with none other than Dr. Wes Bellamy, homeboy, Seville's own. You hear that, Georgia, South Carolina? Seville's own.
Yeah. That sounds good.
But yeah, so Wes, man, so we coming up on an election coming up here soon, and like something that, you know, like that I hear you talk about a lot, and you and I have discussions about is, you know, like the state of Black America, the state of Black Charlottesville, you know, like our, you know, People's Party, right? Like, so what, you know, what would you communicate to the public that when it comes to, you know, the local elections coming up, state and what have you, in your opinion, should be most important when we decide where to cast that vote?
Yeah, I think there's two things in which we have to be paying attention and cognizant of. The first one is that we have local elections that will have real implications on our people taking place right here in both Charlottesville, Albemarle, and surrounding areas. There are city council elections, board of supervisors, House delegate seats, Senate seats, all elections that, again, need our participation, our civic participation and engagement, if you will. However, it's also important to understand that voting is just one aspect of the political process. I'm sorry, I forgot mention the school board races in both the city and county as well. But voting is really just the first part or the first leg in the marathon. Like if a marathon or if you're running a race that's 26 miles, like voting or getting registered to vote is probably the first mile, and then voting is probably what you do on the third mile. Everything that you do after that is going to take place or kind of represent the remaining 23 miles of the race.
Gotcha.
So it's important for us to be engaged in terms of attending city council meetings. I'm encouraging all of our people to sign up for board and commissioner meetings. There's a litany of boards that you can actually holler at Max. There's a litany of boards that are open for us to have representation of on the city. But also we have to start infiltrating Albemarle County, Orange County, Fluvanna, Greene, their boards and their commissions. Like, we cannot put all of the emphasis on what we do and how we serve and what's taking place in the area just in the city. There is a major deficit of Black representation in places outside of the city of Charlottesville. We have to pay not only attention, but become engaged in these boards and commissions. I don't know how else to say it. I don't really know, what else what other ways to communicate it outside of, it's not just up to 5 or 6 people to be the representation for our entire community and or region when it comes to the political front.
Right.
Like, we all are impacted and affected by it, which means that we all have to be engaged in it. So that would be the first thing. The second thing, what would I say in terms of people about kind of the state of the city of Charlottesville or Albemarle County? I think that we're in a good space. Like, I really do firmly believe that we've seen an influx of voices arise, and we've seen an influx of different people with different ideologies do different work. So whether that means that, we have the Black Parent Alliance, I know I may be butchering the name, representing kind of the students and the parents in the city and the county. We have, some really good work going on in the Housing Authority Board, not only with home ownership, but public housing redevelopment as a whole. We see some of the work that's taking place with like folks doing things like with New Hill. Shout out to Quentin and Yolanda.
Yep.
We see a wide variety of people not only doing things but also speaking up as well. Like, shout out to everybody who's been so vocal about what's transpired over at 10th and Page, and pushing back against the dairy market kind of fiasco, if you will. Shout out to my sister Ebony Bug over at the Community Area Foundation, CACF, making sure that we have resources going into our community. So like, when I just as one person, when I think back to 10 years ago, like 2023, we didn't have nearly as many of these voices being present. Damn sure didn't have this many people at the table. And to see where we are now, where the work isn't just falling on a handful of people, I'm really proud. Now, do we have work to do? Hell yeah. We got to get a grip on gun violence. We have to be able to consistently find economic resolve for our people. I'm encouraging anybody. When I was in office, me and Kai, when we were in office, we started something called the Business Equity Fund, which is still in existence. You can get up to $30,000 at a 1% interest rate by partnering with CIC, going through their program. It's for socially disadvantaged individuals, aka Black folk. Yeah. So you can go get those resources if you want to start your business, scale up your business. The Housing Authority is doing a lot of great work. PHA is doing a lot of great work. Shout out to the redevelopment over in Garrett. And then we're trying to find housing resolutions across the city as a whole, across the county as a whole. So it's
work. Let me put a pin in that right there.
Bad.
So
My bad.
What are your thoughts on the issues that the city is currently dealing with in terms of homelessness?
Yeah.
And again, a recurring issue is the police community engagement or relationship.
Yeah, so let's go with homelessness first. So if we go back 8 years, it's 2023. If we go back to 2015 or 7 years to 2016, when we first had that press conference at what was then known as Lee Park about getting the statue removed, if you would have said to me, well, 8 years later, this would be a place in 2023 where people are essentially, or 7 years later, people are just here and they're camped out, I wouldn't say that that's a bad thing. Okay. In many ways, I would say that that's a win. I think here's the part in terms of homelessness that persons or people within the community don't necessarily understand in its totality. One, many of these individuals are choosing to be homeless. There are currently 6 open spaces at the Salvation Army in which people could go and occupy the beds. Now, the Salvation Army, they have a set of rules in which everyone has to abide by, but many of the persons who are currently we find homeless, they would prefer to live on the street. I think that while that may not be ideal, that is a choice in which they are choosing to make. And we should not persecute or prosecute people nor condemn them for choosing to for deciding to make that choice. The city manager, Brother Sam Sanders, who I'm very fond of, I think is in a very difficult position in which we collectively, now I'm talking to black folk, we collectively, black folk need to be able to support him because he has a great deal of individuals who may not identify with different struggles, who are currently pressuring him to find a resolution to something that can't be fixed overnight. Homelessness in Charlottesville didn't start yesterday or last year. It's been a consistent issue. We tried to address it with the crossings. There are some discussions that I'm not privy to discuss or put out in totality, but there are other housing mechanisms that we're trying to bring forth to be able to address homelessness as well. It won't be done next week, next month, or even next year. It takes time to address it. So again, these complex problems, they don't have simple resolutions. And to go to your point in regards to the police and community engagement.
Hey, so before you go there though, I have a question for you. Like, so what would be your rebuttal to the constituents, the voters, the citizens who say, whether we're talking about public housing, which we'll go to next after your next comment, public housing, or we're talking about the unhoused? It's a drain on the system. It takes tax dollars.
Like, do we?
Like, so even if it's somebody's choice, you know, like there are people that be like, well,
I don't think people.
Be a choice.
I don't think people understand a city or municipality's budget as a whole, and that's okay. Like, we have to do a better job of educating our communities as a whole in terms of how a budget work. I'm willing to bet that the unhoused probably take less than 1.5% to 2% of the city's total budget. Okay. So when we look at, if people want to say that the unhoused are a drain on the systems, then I'm willing to bet that we could circle in on a lot of different budget amenities within our city budget and the county budget, in which we can see that there are different resources that we could allocate to address a wide variety of different issues. The other part that I would say is that these are still human beings. Right. A human being needing assistance for whatever reason is not a drain on our structure. These are humans. Like, these aren't inanimate objects. This isn't this Gatorade bottle. These are real people with maybe mental health issues, with substance abuse issues, with these systems that have been in place and have plagued them for a long time, that have made them make different decisions. And damn, is it so messed up that a locality says that, well, it may not be ideal, but we're still going to try to figure out how to help them.
Yeah.
Like, have we become so callous?
Yeah.
And have we become so just like, well, whatever, because it's an eyesore that we can't take care of people who, quote unquote, others may deem to be the least of these. And then furthermore, if we're going to be 100, a lot of these folks who are talking trash about the unhoused proclaim to be Christian, and this is absolutely anti against everything that Jesus said that we should go out and do.
Yeah.
So you can't, like it's completely mind-boggling to me that some individuals are so upset by the unhoused, and they're camped out in a park in which, if we can find a way to maintain that it's safe and that people are not hurting themselves or each other, and this is where they choose to be, if that's the worst problem that we have in our community, then I would say that we're in a good space.
You know, something else that comes up in that conversation is that, yes, I happen to be in agreement with you that people are choosing to be unhoused. They would just prefer that.
Yeah.
But the other end of that is that a percentage of those people are choosing to be unhoused because of some of the issues that you just spoke about, mental health, substance abuse, different things like that, which rolls over into institutional problem with that we're facing here with institutionally, or just social constructs and different things like that, in which case the funds that it takes to resolve those type of issues, to prevent homelessness altogether, becomes a much bigger beast to look at.
The funds that it takes may grow, but it's still a very, very, very small percentage of our budget. Like, very, very, very small percentage of our budget. Furthermore, like, again, I think that there has to be some compassion, empathy, and accountability. So, like, there are things that we would want the unhoused to do, but I just ask folk, whatever happened to grace? Like, whatever happened to showing people grace?
So you sounded very democratic, though, because of course I'm kind of being devil's advocate. Like, but
Angel's advocate, you ain't no devil.
You're right.
Go ahead.
But to your point, like when you said like have we gone that far as society? We're not. The answer is yes. Yes. Like, we have gone that far off of compassion.
And see, so for me, then you like that's problematic. And again, I think that these are complex issues that don't have simplistic resolutions that you're going to find overnight. Furthermore, I think that also leads into some of the things in which we see with law enforcement. And, you know, shout out to Chief K, shout out to Chief Caucus, who I've grown to develop a very strong relationship with, who I would say him and his department as a whole, like, they're working diligently. We just spent, an hour or so playing football and kicking it in West Haven on Tuesday. He'll go anywhere. I mean, he lives in the community. I don't think any person is perfect. So, if you want to find something to have an issue with Chief K about, then okay. The same way that we can all find an issue with each other, because, again, nobody does everything perfect 100% of the times. Right. But I appreciate his commitment to being willing to engage. And if he messes up, be willing to say, yo, you know what, I may have got that wrong. Yo, how can we figure out how we do this better? And this requires all of us collectively to be able to say, like, yo, we're not enemies. Like, this isn't real life cops and robbers. Like, this isn't a TV show. This is real life. And we have to figure out how we can live in this community together. And I think that it's important that when there are issues that arise in which we see things that don't go the way in which it's supposed to, we can speak up and hold persons accountable. I don't care who it is, myself included. We can hold people accountable. But then we can also be willing to show a level of grace to say that I'm willing to be able to work with you to find how we can be able to coexist. And then furthermore, like, the police have to be able to do that, and the community has to be able to do that. And I'm more interested, from where I am right now, into figuring out how we bring these different entities together. That's my role right now. That's my role. Other people may have different roles, but my role right now, as I see myself, with the relationships that I have, is to figure out how we can be on the same page.
Yeah. So,
Dr. Bellamy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, Razor, real quick. So what we're gonna do? I'm just gonna hit the top of this hour, but if you got a few more minutes, we're gonna come right back over. Razor.
I'm here,
and because we definitely got to close more in depth about your new role with with CRHA.
Okay, cool.
So, all right, I'm IMHO. Don't go anywhere. Literally, be right back. We gotta pay them bills.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion with Maxilia Robinson and Charles Lewis, only on 101.3 Jams.
Well, longer, because we want to make sure that we finish up this rich conversation. So important. So, Razor, if you still there, I know you had something, but Razor, while we waiting on you, I just wanted to say, Wes, too, like sometimes, I appreciate you, and I even got to shout out my sisters like Zai, Nakaya, even Tanisha as well, because sometimes you got to have folks who are willing to make people uncomfortable, and sometimes folks are sacrificial in many ways, so to speak, because some folks who may be a little more soft-spoken or whatnot just like wait until the right time. Mm-hmm. But in order to get things done sometimes, no matter, it's going to create some enemies and whatnot, but we need that kind of firepower as well. You know what I mean? It's just like we said, like we all play a part, right? We all have different styles and what have you. So definitely appreciate that. That's needed.
All love. I mean, I appreciate you saying that. And again, for me, I think the overarching theme of this is that we, and again, from my personal estimation, like we get along. Like everybody, I mean, nobody is supposed to get along 100% of the time at all times. But to me, I think within our African American community, if you ever were to call it such, locally, there's a whole lot of collaboration, consistent collaboration in which people work together, man. Like I'm so proud of Jamar, Pierre, Robert Gray, Uhuru Foundation, Daniel Fairley, Fernando from Fur Cuts, the 100 Cuts Initiative, Derek Brown, like to see these different barbershops working together to ensure that our folk and our young folk get haircuts, back to school supplies, shout out to Denise Johnson. Like, man, there's so much collaboration and working together. Yeah. Again, this is just from my vantage point, that there's no time at all to be tripping off of what's not happened or what we disagree about, because there's so much more that we do agree on. And to be honest, like if there is something that someone is doing or isn't doing or something that you don't agree with, there's nothing wrong with you going and starting your own thing. Like we had the 100 Black Men. I felt as if there was kind of some different things in which we should do. So we started Hype. We started the boxing club, and it's still going. Like, and there's nothing wrong with having both. We got Black Professional Network, that we started together, and you still running that. Like there's a lot of stuff that which we're doing together. So it's all love for me.
Yeah, that's spot on, man. That's spot on. Because the other thing too is like even when one caveat to what you were saying, when one organization may be missing a piece of it, then to your point, we shouldn't then try to tear it down. Oh, because y'all ain't doing this one thing. Like it'd be so easy for us. Okay, if we ain't doing it, then that means we may not have the capacity, but we will support you in doing it.
Yeah, you go do it. You know what I'm saying? Like I love what Robert Gray and them are doing with the Uhuru Foundation in terms of just filling a void of ensuring that and Derek Rush as well, of filling a void in terms of community work with maybe a disenfranchised population. And then you can't talk about young folk in this community without talking about my man Bud. Like, shout out to Nick Fagans. Like, he does a ton in the community. So again, like there are so many people in which we can look to consistently who are doing phenomenal things, and we do this work together. So that is much more of my focus and where my energy is than what's not happening.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Razor, what you got for Doctor? Still there, Razor? Thought I heard him a second ago. All right,
bro. Okay.
So while we waiting on him, I'm pretty sure I got his line on here. We should be able to hear him. Thought I heard him a minute ago. But we're waiting on Razor to come on, and you can text us the question too, Razor, if we have an audio issue. But Wes, make sure that we want to get into your new role as chair of CRHA.
Yeah.
And
we in here, Housing Authority.
Yeah. So so I have a particular question.
Sure.
Definitely when it comes to Charlottesville and the city and the land and development and whatnot. But go ahead and break down to folks what that organization's mission is, and so they know what it means for you to be the chair of it.
Yeah, so the Housing Authority, the Charlottesville Redevelopment and Housing Authority, is essentially the arm that not only handles public housing within our community here in Charlottesville. We have a wide variety of different public housing sites, some of which many folks have heard of, whether that's West Haven, South First Street, Madison Avenue, Mickey Drive, Riverside, and so forth. We are responsible, in my personal estimation, of serving as an arm to allow folks to not only remain housed, but also improve their livelihood and taking the next step, specifically revolving around how you are housed. So, we have an incredible director, John Sales, man, who has done absolutely phenomenal work. And for me, like the biggest thing in which I'm the most proud of as one person with the Housing Authority is that I remember when I was on City Council, when I first got on in 2016, Delegate David Toscano said to me one day, like, you really think that, redevelopment is going to happen, Wes? We've been working on this since 1991 when I was mayor. And I was born in 1986, so I'm like, well, y'all been working on this for 20-some years and it didn't happen?
Yeah.
Nah, something wrong. We're gonna make sure that we make this happen. And, you look 7 years later, we've broken ground, and you see families moving into the new development on South First Street, which is absolutely beautiful. We've reconstructed and built on Crescent Halls, which, we're still finalizing the last 3 floors, but persons and individuals are back in there. We're getting our plans together for West Haven. So, like, we've already embarked on this process of public housing redevelopment and actually getting families in newer situations in addition to home ownership. So we're have our new home ownership program in which some families are working towards actually being able to own their home, and some folks not just living in public housing but living with our voucher system, living in different places. So we're in a much better space, and we got some work to do. Yeah. No doubt. We have some improvement to make, but we're definitely going to make it. And this isn't a one-person job, so, we're all in this together. We're looking forward to people consistently coming to help us. I guess I'm making an announcement now. We're about to embark on a $200,000 campaign to renovate the basketball court at West Haven. So if anybody wants to help us support that in any regard, we need your support. UVA, hint, hint. Y'all just got an $80 million new football facility. All we need is $200,000, in which a lot of your students already come and play on that court as it is. Any of these philanthropic organizations or people who are complaining about what's not going on, we could use your support there. So we got some work to do, but again, rest assured, we're going to get it done.
All right. So I need you to justify it. $200,000.
No doubt.
I mean, some homeless people that could use that money.
No doubt.
Some programs that could use that money. So So
it's important for our young folk, one, who live in that community, as well as our members of public housing and our low-income communities as a whole, have a safe outlet to go and not only play basketball but utilize that space. Our communities deserve to have nice things. Like, because you live in public housing does not mean that you do not deserve to have a nice basketball court for recreation like these other communities have. So I don't want to hear anybody, and I mean, you have the right to say whatever you want, but for me, I find it troubling, not saying this is what you're saying, Max. No. I'm just saying in general, I find it troubling for when we say that we need to do something for our low-income community, there's often pushback about how other segments and populations of the community also need things. The city had what kind of surplus this year, Max?
I don't know.
Yeah, man, you can't put her on the spot like that.
We had a nice surplus, right? We had a good answer. In Albemarle County, there too are an abundance of resources. So again, we see people make decisions and choices about what they want to donate and give their resources to. And what I'm suggesting is that we also provide resources for this segment and population of the community. As we alluded to earlier, it doesn't mean we can't walk and chew gum simultaneously. We have the ability to be able to do a multitude of things, but what I'm saying also is that we are not going to forget our communities that also need our assistance. In addition to, like, what quote unquote some may see as a recreational event like a basketball court, we also have Family, Youth, and Support Services program, an initiative in which we're trying to provide health and mental health counselors to people who live in public housing, provide financial analysis and resource providers for folks who live there, because there's this misconception that people think just because you're low income or poor that you mismanage your money. But my mom will tell you that oftentimes people who have the least amount of resources are the best budgeters because they have the least to operate with. So you literally trying to rub 3 nickels together to make $1, and you got to make those 3 nickels stretch. So there's this misconception there that, again, we're trying to do a lot of different things that we need people's support on. Shout out to FAR as well, the Public Housing Association of Residents.
I asked the questions to get the answers.
There you go, Max.
See, you pull it out.
I mean, I told you I missed you. I told you. But I'll tell you the pitch for UVA. You tell them, say your athletes come down here and play. So if you don't want them twisting their ankle in a crack, you better help us renovate this bad boy.
You step on the crack, break your mama's back, all that good stuff. Come on and help us out.
So bro, so again, before we let you go, I want to definitely dig a little deeper into what we've been facing recently. Like when it comes to the housing and whatnot, because while I'm glad to hear you say what you said about the new initiatives and programs that you have, that traditionally
we have. It ain't Wes's program.
That's right. That you all have.
Right.
Traditionally, haven't been associated, to when it comes to public housing and low-income housing per se, like when it comes to more of like upward mobility piece of it. So that transition, like that segue is what I really want to focus on, because it's also like how you said how there's some folks, in said neighborhoods who also are the best budgeters, right? Yeah. But then there's also folks as well, like in every neighborhood, that also needs a little more financial literacy, right? So. But the big thing, though, when it comes to the housing right now, let me preface it by saying this. Charlottesville ain't got no more land. Like, people forget about that, right?
It's we're like, landlocked. 10.5 square miles.
We're landlocked. So you're going to build up, or unfortunately, you're going to push people out. Or how do we fight that?
Yeah, well, I think there's a multitude of different ways. One, you can look at increasing density and building up, which is okay. In some regards, I think we can be creative in terms of how we acquire different current residential entities. So shout out to, again, John Sells, our Housing Authority Board. We purchased a multitude of properties from the OG Eugene Williams and Dogwood properties, and now we've renovated some of them, making those housing structures a little more amenable for people to live in and bring some of our families there. But also, again, this is going to require public and private partnerships. It's really easy to blame the people who you see for not doing something, opposed to doing the deep dive and to find out those who may be behind the scenes that are being very reluctant to help us have upward mobility. A lot of those people, I'm going to say here, are in Albemarle County. Now, I'm not here to put the city against the county, but I am damn sure here to say that the city is punching as hard as we can, and the county is not pulling their weight. There's no other way for us to describe the lack of collaboration when it comes to affordable housing in the region than what we see the county not doing. Now, does this mean it's just Albemarle County local government as a whole? No. That also means the developers who purchase a multitude of different land and then they only want to sell it at market value in the county, and will refuse to accept housing vouchers, people from both the city and the county to live in certain places. Those persons need to be held accountable. Another slick way in which people are detriments to affordable housing is we see realtors who they talk about. I mean, I got a couple cats who I just got into it with it, being candid, got into it with them online. Like, yo, y'all around here popping, I'm not going to say the word, but y'all out here popping stuff about how you just bought your 8th or your 9th house in the last 2 years and you're flipping them and you're selling them at market rate. But those are also units that the housing authorities are trying to purchase so that we could put families into them, but we can't get them because you guys are using these backdoor deals to purchase these homes before they even come on the market, and then you're selling them at market rate. And that also is leading to some of the affordable housing just unfortunate instances that we see. There's some other words that I'm really trying not to use because it makes me a little upset. So again, like, we collaboratively have to, one, be able to pay attention to what people are doing, but also collaboratively work to resolve these problems. And they're hard. There's not as sexy as us going out and saying ski ye and going out and having some fun. Like, I get it. It's not as sexy as us just coming or just kicking it at Tonsler and during the games and having a great time. I lead the Tonsler League. Y'all know how much I love that. But we also have to be able to address these systemic issues that are having real life implications on our day-to-day lives, and we cannot do this alone. So as much fun as we have with having parties, like, shout out to everybody. I hope y'all come to the Sneaker Gala November 18th. It's going to be downtown at the Vault. It's going to be dope. I know the Cabaret is coming up. Shout out to Tanisha and everybody that's doing that. As much as we like to have fun, we also have to pay attention to what's going on around us, opposed to just complaining about they ain't gonna let us do this, or them people are doing A, B, and C, or we're being pushed out. No, hell no. Let's fight to stay in. And furthermore, let's work together and get some of these spaces that may not be in the city, but they may be in the county, so that we can house our people. Like, there's nothing wrong with us doing that.
Is there anything more? I guess I'm just asking for specifics because clearly there's more. But is there anything
I'm fired
more?
up. Let's go.
Is there anything more that our policymakers within the city can do to help minimize the affordable housing disparity?
Like what?
That's what I'm asking you. You the expert.
Yeah, I think, I'm a person with ideas. I don't think I'm the expert. Is there anything more that the city as a whole, when you say city council, housing authority, policymakers as a whole, that we could be doing to increase affordable housing? Yeah, of course. There's always more that we can do. When we see the zoning, and I would encourage everybody to go look at the new zoning plan, the proposal in terms of how that'll be changed. The old zoning plans literally written and rooted in racism, which is kind of part of why we see such a lack of affordable housing, not just in Charlottesville, but across the country. A little bit of homework. Everybody, I'm putting my department chair hat on now. A little bit of homework. Everybody go look up what R1, R2, R3, R4 means and how those historically came about. So yeah, changing the zoning, allowing for us to be able to build up, so increasing density, also removing the ability for developers to pay into what's known as the quote-unquote POFR, opposed to providing affordable housing units. So just very briefly, for those that may sound like German, if you will, what's transpired before is that developers will say, well, yo, I want to build this, hold up, wait, my bad. Okay, I'll say it slower because they on my top. All right, I get it. That means wrap it up. Yo, that's the sign. Wrap this stuff up, baby. You good. So what we've seen before is developers will subsequently come in and say, I want to build this 50-unit structure, and the city will say, well, 10 of those units got to be affordable housing at 60% AMI to allow people to actually be able to afford them, not just the richest people. And they will say, well, I tried to do it, but the construction costs are so much. What I'm actually going to do is just pay $250,000 into this affordable housing pot, and we call that a POFR. And instead of them actually building the units, they'll put the money in the pot, and in the city you have to figure out how we do A, B, or C. No, we need to say we're decreasing that. Ain't no more putting the money in the POFR. Actually put the unit in, period. If you got to put in 10 affordable housing units, put in 10 affordable housing units. Gotcha. But that's still only 10. So again, this means that there has to be collaboration with outside entities. I know UVA is trying to do some affordable housing stuff now. That's, kudos to them. They got to do a lot more. So holding them accountable. And again, when you say what can the city do? Hold Albemarle County and these other people who drain our resources by coming into town all the time, hold their localities and jurisdictions accountable for working collaboratively with us to build affordable housing.
Like the annex fee, right?
Like the annex fee, yo, we get around 12 to 17. The city gets between 12 and 17 million dollars a year because all that area up by Forest Lakes that was actually a part of the city. So now the county has it. They have to pay us for using it. A lot of folks get mad about it, but we then in turn use that money to be able to address some of these social ills that we have here. And we could talk about the unhoused, but yo, Charlottesville is a city of 50,000 people. We have to service nearly 250,000 people. Everybody comes here not only for the hospital, but because we have the grocery stores, we have the downtown mall, we have the amenities that other people don't have. Like, this is town. Y'all know it. I'm about to go to town. We going in town. So we have to be able to talk. It's country talk. I didn't get it till I started really becoming a Charlottesvillian. When people say town, I'm like, in the city or the town. Anyway, so we have to be able to service these people, which means we need resources, which means that it's complex. Like, they're not simple solutions, but you know how we can get to a better place? Us working together and being engaged.
And you know what you're saying, though, a lot of that is still the old money against the new money. The old money has the money because they don't allow the new money.
No doubt.
You know what I mean?
No doubt.
Like, and you also made me, so that's part of the ongoing fight, of course, to convince that. But the other part you made me think of is I remember how heavy Nakaya was pushing as mayor to make it mandatory for the developers to have the affordable lots or housing
the
as well.
units they gotta have them.
But it's but it's like from a business standpoint, they always want to throw that at you, like how much it'll cost them. Like
I can't make money.
So how can that be made mandatory? Because that seems to be a huge sticking point of making it of a jurisdiction, the zoning and what have you, making it mandatory for developers to do. And then the other end piece of that, and this is my last piece as we get ready to wrap up. But remember that part. But then the other part is that divide of like what low income means. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times I feel like those of us that are black, they may be able to afford certain spaces. We got to be unified as a community to know, all right, if they get a foot in the door, they're then going to create more opportunities. They're going to create a safe space for me to get in the door and not it be, okay, well, if you're talking middle class and you ain't talking black issues, because there's plenty of black middle class as well.
No doubt.
So those kind of two pieces on how we force developers' hands and how we how we unify versus low income, middle income.
Let's address the second one first. So one, a lot of that is classism. And classism is based and rooted in white supremacy. From literally the first onset, you can look it up. Like from 1619, when black folk first came here, and then the 20 some odd Negroes, and then the first free black family, the Taylors, in the late 1620s, and then moving up into the 1650, when literally there was policy written in the Commonwealth of Virginia to allow black folk to no longer be able to be free based on the status of the quote unquote father of the enslaved person. There's been very deliberate ways in which we have been systematically pit against each other, whether that be by how much money you make, whether that be whether you're free or not, whether that be whether or not you're educated, a wide variety of different things. So to your point, Charles, we have to be able to, understand that regardless of whether you make $100,000, $200,000, $50,000, $10,000, you're black. And we are fighting an uphill battle in terms of empowerment of our people politically, socially, and economically. Now, with that being said, black is also not a monolithic group. So we are allowed to live in different spaces, have different ideologies about how we move forward, and interact with each other differently. We just have a responsibility and an obligation to not do harm towards each other. And ultimately, that's where we have to be. So to your question in terms of how do we address the housing perspective from classism, or from a class perspective, middle class, because there are black folk who can afford different housing structures, that is okay. And then there's some black folk, because of what's transpired here in our city, who need our housing assistance. My response is that in this pie, all of us need to be fighting for each other. What does that mean, Wes? How do we fight for each other? The middle class folk have to, one, recognize their privilege and understand that while you can afford something, some of our others may not be able to, so you need to be fighting for them. The lower class folk, quote unquote, lower income rather, because you're not lower class.
Not at all.
The lower income folk, black folk, are going to have to understand that there are ways for us to develop allies for those who may have a little bit more, and there's opportunities for us to work together. And then collaboratively, we push back against these systems, i.e. developers, who are consistent in terms of not allowing for any of us really to be in certain spaces. When you asked the question about what Kaya was doing in terms of trying to hold developers accountable. There's something called inclusionary zoning. Those are ways in which we can be able to address these measures. But more than anything else, our council has to have the political will to be able to say, we are not going to allow for this. Now, there will be clowns like Jerry Miller who will come and say, well, if you don't allow developers to be able to build here, then you won't have any money for some of the programs in which so many of you say that you need. I do not believe that to be true. This is Charlottesville, Virginia. People always want to come here. They always want to build here. Come hell or high water, if one developer leaves, rest assured there'll be another one who comes in who will be willing to play by our rules if we set the rules. And as my sister Tesla Figueroa and Diddy says, we got to hold the line. So if we hold the line and we push the line for what is necessary, then we'll get what we want. But that doesn't happen overnight. We have to be patient with people, but impatient with progress. Everyone does not know the same things. So while we're having to educate each other, simultaneously those who may know have to be able to push. And then we're developing our army. But I firmly believe that we're going to get there. Hell, I can look around and see where we're already getting there. This progress is happening. We just got to, again, be able to run this marathon. This ain't no 3K. This ain't no 5K. This ain't no 10K. This ain't a 2-mile race. We're running a marathon. People say life is short. In fact, it's the longest thing in which we'll ever do. And I want to run my race for my people. I may not see the promised land, quote unquote, but when I leave here, I want to know that when on my last breath and my children and my family knows that I gave everything that I can for my people. And I think collectively, we all just have to commit ourselves to doing a little bit more, and we're going to get there.
Couldn't say it better.
What we say after that, Charles? What we say?
What we say? The only thing I would say is like let's make this marathon a relay as well, brother.
No
like,
doubt.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes take a water break and then pick it back up when
No doubt. But also recognize some of us are in better shape than others.
Facts,
right?
Facts.
So some of us are prepared to run a longer race for a longer time, but you definitely need a break and pass that baton on. I see my baton.
Yeah, we get two slips.
I see the baton being passed all the time. That's why I was shouting out, like, the Roberts, the Jamars, the Daniels, the so many people who are doing such great things in the community, because there are a lot of people who are carrying this work. You know what I'm saying? We all doing it.
So as we close, Max, I mean, like now I got to go to the gym when we leave here. Like you hear that sneak diss?
Oh no!
I just got a sneak diss from Dr. West.
No diss at all. But I'm definitely going to the gym when I leave.
But Brother West, man, thank you as always, good sir.
It's supposed to be a 20-minute talk. It's an hour and a half.
We couldn't help.
I didn't promise that.
I think the only 2 cents that I would add to your with the remarks you just gave just now, Wes, is that these units also not only need to be affordable, but deeply affordable when we start talking about AMI. Don't want to lose that point. And then also the fact that just because a developer allows an affordable unit, a deeply affordable unit, a lot of times we still get lost in translation because of the barriers that are put in place to qualify or be eligible in order to rent those units. And oftentimes they don't represent that accurately when they are proposing something to certain people.
So that's why, like, again, as you alluded to, all of us have different roles, and in our roles, for those of us who are able to read the fine print and then follow up, we got to be able to then be able to easily communicate and translate that to our larger community.
Right.
Like we just talked about this. Shout out to my sister Angela Rye. Like we just had this conversation about Sexy Red saying how people in the hood love Trump. And like she like, well, like that's crazy. And I'm like, nah, I hear that all the time when I'm around the way, because it's a real thing. People,
because
not everybody, but obviously there are people, because one thing that people say is like, well, shoot, Trump gave me them checks. Not recognizing that it was actually Congress. Not recognizing that it was actually Trump who held the checks up, and he just wanted to put his name on it. And subsequently, those checks were taxed, and we had to pay them back. But if we don't understand how Congress is responsible for certain things. If we don't understand these processes, then a master manipulator can then come through and trick an uneducated person on a particular topic. So then what does that mean? Those of us who do know better, we have to do a better job of engaging with our people on the ground in our communities to let them know, like, nah, let me put you on game. This is actually what happened. We can't blame the person who doesn't know for not knowing and then believing a trickster. That's what the trickster goes to do. But those of us who do know, we got to do the hard work. I feel you. It's hard. We got to do the hard work of engaging with our own to help them to understand, which means we can't be afraid of our people. Which means that we cannot say that, well, that's them over there and they ignorant and they don't know nothing. So when y'all ask me, well, dang, why you spend so much time in these certain communities? One, because I love us. Secondly, I grew up in a place in which we didn't get a lot of information. And then lastly, if I know this, why ain't I going out and telling everybody? That's what we have to do.
That's what we gotta
so
do.
when you ask me this question about, like, is Charlottesville home or will I leave or go anywhere else? Man, I done turned down jobs that pay $400,000 a year to stay here because this is home. So we have an obligation, those of us who know, to sacrifice in some regard, but also go out and educate. And that's what we gotta do. And that's what y'all doing up here on the radio station.
That's
so
right.
much
We got
love.
you here. That's right. Dr. Wes Bellamy, my man.
Much love, man. My man.
Thank you for
Love
coming
you, bro.
through.
Thank you.
Yes,
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 indeed.
yes.